Hello and welcome to Moderate Fantasy Violence, a podcast about pop culture and the world around it. I'm Alistair.
And I'm Nick.
And in today's episode, we will be writing an inflammatory book about being black in America under a pseudonym in American fiction, and then hanging out with our buddies, fighting crime and enjoying pizza in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. But before all of that, Nick, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Well, since in this podcast we are covering a film from summer 2023, I thought I'd cover something a bit more relevant and up to the minute and zeitgeisty in this section. Admittedly, it would have been more zeitgeisty if I'd done it in the previous episode, but hey, let's not dwell. This is, of course, the reality sensation that's sweeping the nation. This is The Traitors on BBC. I have seen the second season, but not the first, please do not send me spoilers, of this hot, exciting reality show in which a bunch of strangers go to a castle in Scotland and then basically play a sort of a combination of the Crystal Maze and Mafia, where they have to play sort of endurance games to build up money in the pot while simultaneously voting each other off to try and whittle down the number of people left who actually get to take the pot. As I say, this is quite zeitgeisty, this is quite popular, this is beloved, this has been dominating my Twitter timeline, and you know what, it is a lot of fun. I think the key thing that makes this fun for me, when I have not honestly can't remember the last time I actually watched a reality show. We watched Tiger King for this podcast back in lockdown, but I hated it. So, yeah, I don't remember the last time we watched a reality show and actually enjoyed it. The key thing to this is it's just quite silly and quite goth and over the top. Like, if anything, it almost reminds me of those programmes you used to watch as a kid on children's TV, where it's like John Leslie pretending to be on a spaceship or something, or people pretending to be, like, medieval characters or something. Like, there's the characters who are the characters, the people, they're real people, Nick, come on.
You're not characters as well, but yeah.
You're watching a non-scripted TV show for the first time in your life, come on. Yeah, the people characters on this show, a few of them are designated as the traitors, the titular traitors, and every night they meet up in a tower wearing, like, massive hooded monk cloaks and decide who to murder. And they do always call it murdering, even though no one is actually murdered. And yeah, it's just quite melodramatic and goth. And Claudia Winkleman hangs around wearing a lot of black clothes and a dead straight black haircut, delivering somber proclamations about their doom. And yeah, it's just quite fun.
Yeah, I feel like I've been watching this show even though I'm not watching it because it's just taken over social media, really. My partner loves it as well, and she's been watching this season as well as watching the first season last year. And I do like its sense of style, that like it really leans into the idea that reality TV needs to be dramatic. The tension of someone being voted out of the Big Brother house or whatever, but like they make it really dramatic with like murder and meetings in the middle of the night and cloaks and sort of in this bizarre castle. So yeah, I guess feel it's like, I don't know, it leads into the fact that reality TV is a bit artificial by just kind of like, well, let's just go with it and make it like there's no pretense of this being like something people would actually do or behave. It's like purely artificial, but also very dramatic and entertaining.
Well, I think it's a show made by the BBC, who I think, as part of their broad image as the country's lovely auntie, can't really make a show that's, you know, fully openly trying to figure out the darkest drives in all of us. There has to be a certain sense of, okay, it's a game, it's fun. And I think as a result, they have, instead of it being a weird neither one nor the other thing, they've actually somehow pulled that balance off. And yeah, there is a nice bit of sort of interpersonal drama. You do get the sense of the players playing each other, but also, and maybe a lot of this is, you know, good editing, they do keep a strong sense that it is a game. You're not actually watching people tear each other to pieces for money. Yeah,
and the viewer crucially is in on it. They know who the traitors are. So that gives you, like, I guess, a perspective on the game, rather than... There was a game show, similar kind of thing, which I really, really liked, but in the 90s called The Mole, which was, again, a group of people competing challenges, and one of them was trying to sabotage it, but you didn't know who it was, and you had to, like, figure it out. And each week, people got voted off based on how much they knew about the activities of the mole. But this is different because you know who the traitors are, so you kind of, when someone's manipulating someone, you can kind of know what their angle is.
Yeah, I did actually turn to my partner after we watched an episode of The Traitors and say, would this be better or worse if we didn't know who the traitors were? And I think the conclusion we reached was that, yeah, it's probably better to know who they are because it's just more entertaining watching the conversations and the various people's various attempts to sort of game each other and play each other, knowing who's lying and who isn't. Like, maybe there's a version of this that some people would like where you don't know who the traitors are, but I think probably, yeah, the subjective best version is when you get, yeah, a certain sense of, like, omnipotent viewer knowing more than the players, so that you can, you know, shout at your screen, no, don't trust her, or whatever. No, he's a bastard.
Yeah, I'm sure that's very much part of the fun, knowing when someone's deliberately manipulating someone, I guess, because it casts what they say in a different context.
Yeah, I think that is the main reason why it's fun to know who the traitors are, and as I say, it does a decent job of making you care about these people without feeling like it's too manipulative. Like, it doesn't really lean too hard on their, like, sad backstories. There's a bit of that in there, but it's not overwhelming, I don't think. I think a lot of it is just, it's all in the game. It's all good fun. It bops along. Each episode is an hour long, which does sometimes seem a bit, when you look back on them after watching them, you think, did an hour worth of things really happen? Or was it just about 3 things and then lots of long scenes of conversations? Like, I'm not really rushing to go straight into any more Traitors. I haven't seen season 1 yet, and there's also the US version and the Australian version on iPlayer. So I could, like, dive into a Traitors bubble and watch nothing but different versions of the Traitors for the next, like, couple of months.
Yeah, as my partner did when she finished the first season. I mean, the American one has celebrities, I think, as well, which is a bit odd, or at least people who are not just random members of the public, and also has Alan Cumming presenting, who is British, I guess, because they're just taking the format. But yeah, there is like a universe of Traitors to dive into. Plus, like, there's like various behind the scenes shows analysing it or things like that. The kind of the equivalent of Big Brother's Little Brother or Bake Off Extra Slice that goes along with all this stuff. You can really dive into it, as well as the oodles and oodles of jokes, speculation, and discourse on social media that this show has kicked off.
Yeah, I must admit, it would have been fun, since I was watching it about the time it was on anyway, to actually be caught up and be able to join in the bullshit on social media, but I did slightly miss that. I was always about a week behind.
No, next year.
Next year I would attempt to actually watch at least the UK version of The Traitors as it airs, so I can be annoying on social media.
Yeah, I feel this really has cut through. Like, it's become mainstream popular. I saw a thing that the Vauxhall Tavern in London was actually like screening the final episode live because it was on like a Friday night. I guess they wanted their punters to be able to enjoy the episode as well, I guess, and also enjoy the bar. But like, yeah, and the bar was packed out with people like, yeah, watching it. Yeah, because someone was like, had like taken some videos and posted on Twitter. I guess the Vauxhall Tavern is one of the country's most famous gay bars, and I know that Claudia Winkleman has a big LGBTQ plus following, so I don't know if it's something to do with that, but I guess that indicates just how popular the show's become, that like pubs are screening it on Friday night for fears that their punters won't come because they're too busy sat at home watching The Traitors.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not really qualified to speak to the gay appeal of The Traitors. It is quite melodramatic, which probably does at times cross over into camp.
But I feel that's just an illustration of how popular it is. Obviously, it's popular in that community. And yeah, people who tweet a lot about LGBTQ issues, I've noticed are like, yeah, really into this. But what I'm wider point trying to make is that it's kind of busted through all our silos. It seems to be one of the few things that unites everyone. The only thing people are talking about right now, that everyone's talking about, seems to be The Traitors and Taylor Swift.
Yeah, as I say, I think they've done a decent job of making it not too like mean and manipulative, so that, I don't know, those of us who might normally feel we're above petty reality shows could watch it without feeling too bad. It's just so artificial and constructed that you can still feel like you're watching a work of art that someone has actually spent time on, rather than, a dirt cheap reality show where they've just thrown a bunch of strangers into a room and said, right, fight it out. Last one standing gets the money. Yeah,
I suppose there's broad appeal to that.
There's broad appeal, and there's a sense of, of some sort of vision and effort that's gone into it.
And there is generally a sense, at least it's portrayed, it might be, created by the editing or the direction, but that you are watching actual people actually interact, and like kind of you're responding to, like real people playing this game. I mean, one of the things we really didn't like about Tiger King was how the creators had just so obviously tried to manipulate the viewers, I don't know, impressions of the characters, trying to like shunt them around with ridiculous music and things like that, and shunt your allegiances around, which I guess it's okay if it's pure fiction, when the writer's obviously trying to manipulate you, but if you're trying to show something that's supposed to be, air quotes, reality TV, then there should be this element of reality to it, not outright manipulation. The Traitors seems to have achieved that.
Well, the Traitors could get away with being incredibly melodramatic because it's a game and it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously it matters if you're playing and you might get to win several £1,000s, but it's a different vibe to Tiger King, which was doing a similar sort of dramatic music, melodramatic proclamations about a bunch of people being murdered or something, which left a bit of a bad taste in the mouth for me.
Yeah, no, that's very much the case.
So yeah, this is fun. As Alistair said, this has been a massive popular success, so it probably doesn't need me telling you that. So there's a fair chance that if you're listening to this, you may well have already decided whether you feel the need to watch The Traitors. But for the record, is it a laugh? Yes, it is. Will I eventually watch season 1 after taking a bit of a break to watch some good old-fashioned premium drama? Yes, I probably will. And that's me. Alistair, what have you done?
Well, from something that's very popular with universal appeal, I'm going to go for something that's a bit niche, though it's not an obscure film that's up for some Oscars. I've been watching on Netflix the 5th and final season of Disenchantment from Matt Groening, creator of The Simpsons and Futurama. And the reason why I say this is a bit niche is I do feel this one is very much a for the fans at this point.
This is a little bit from the, are they still making that department? Yeah,
and I suppose, and if you weren't like so into it before, maybe don't rush out and see it again. They are wrapping it up with like a final season, which is good. You know, I guess unlike The Simpsons, that just keeps going on and on and on and on, seemingly forever, which will never die.
The irony is that Disenchantment is unpopular, so is being ended, and that's actually better.
Yeah, ironically. Though apparently the buzz is that New Simpsons has actually become good again, but who knows if that's true or not. We need to investigate that at some point. But yeah, they're wrapping this up with a final 10-episode season. It's still got the charm that I liked about it, in that, you know, there's the great cast. Kind of, you really feel the characters have been built up at this point. Yeah, especially King Zog, who's still very funny, probably the funniest thing in the show. And there's a sort of romance plot line for Bean, the main character in the final season. That's quite nice and quite sweet. And yeah, there's various cool bits are back. Like there's a large part of the plot takes place in Steamland, the sort of steampunk country that's next to the one that Bean's from, featuring voices of Richie Iodi and other people. And that's kind of fun. Just, yeah, the sort of steampunk jokes and things like that. So yeah, I don't know, if you're a big fan of Matt Groening, I'd say, yeah, this has got the sort of signature humor, so it's worth watching. But yeah, it is, I guess, a niche recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the first few episodes of this many moons ago for this podcast, and yeah, it's fine. It's got a sort of genre comedy humour that I kind of like, in theory, but the problem I always had with it is that I just didn't find it that funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably got funnier as time has gone by. They sort of found like a riff of character humour, which is quite good, which kind of works when you get into the later seasons, and if you stuck with it, the characters have been built up. And yeah, they can make kind of jokes about, you know, who they are as people. The earlier stuff, one of the issues I found is that they were kind of lampooning the fantasy genre, which is fair enough, but it was just very, very broad. They weren't even taking particular pot shots at, like, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. It was just this very, very generic fantasy world that they were spoofing. But yeah, now that they've kind of built up the characters and do more kind of like character humour, it's funnier, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that's true of a lot of sitcoms, to the extent, but I'm sure I've delivered a variation of this bit before on this very podcast. But yeah, first season or so, they're sort of making quite broad jokes about the genre or the archetype of the character. And then by about the second season, if your sitcom's actually working, you will get to the point where you're making jokes that are like specific to the characters you've created, and that's usually when they become funnier. So yeah, I'm not surprised that this may have also happened with this one.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There are so many sitcoms that are just people hanging out in flats or workplaces. And yeah, you need to establish some characters in order to get past the fact that most sitcoms at first look like every other sitcom. But yeah, there's some good writing here, some beautiful animation. Yeah, it's really nicely drawn, and yeah, it's got Matt Groening's signature, quite cartoony style. And I'm glad that he's still kind of making stuff, and it's still getting made and put out there, because yeah, he's got nothing to do with The Simpsons anymore. So yeah, I guess I feel this is an era project he's wanted to do. I feel after doing this, after Futurama, that he seems to have done fantasy sci-fi quite well, and maybe prefer him to move back, if he does another show, into, I don't know, something more based in our world. I know he's always wanted to do some kind of project sort of focused around the music industry and satirising music, and I think that could be very funny.
It's a good point, actually. I hadn't fully clocked until you said it, even though I'm sure it's very obvious to every Matt Groening fan in the world that he's very much done sci-fi and now done fantasy. Yeah,
there's definitely a similarity there.
You got to worry now he's going to do superheroes.
That's a possibility, yeah. I mean,
I'm not saying that would be a good idea, by the way.
No, probably not. I mean, I think there's various stuff in Futurama sort of lampooning superheroes and things, because there is a sort of crossover between the two genres. But yeah, Futurama's more taking aim at things like Star Trek. You know, again, it's quite trad science fiction. But I guess because it's comedy that's aimed at a broad audience, not, you know, fans of the genre. This isn't a fantasy spoof aimed at fantasy fans. It's aimed at people who like The Simpsons, I suppose. General comedy fans.
I guess that's what you'd expect. I mean, Matt Groening, I guess, like a lot, he's been doing this for a long time. I guess he has kind of become a legacy creator who is at this point just doing his thing for his existing fans.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel that's the thing. And that's the sort of thing that his name kind of gives the show some sort of credence and attention. I mean, we are in an attention arms race between various streaming platforms. So yeah, getting someone who's known for creating a famous sitcom to do their new show is a way these platforms get attention. I guess now that there's been a big cutting back of budgets and things like that, Netflix have cancelled a huge amount of material. It's actually quite bizarre that this actually made it to 5 seasons and it's ending. I don't know if it's cheaper to make than Teenage Bounty Hunters, for example.
Yeah. I mean, I think Partly, honestly, animation takes so long to make that it's possible that it may have been commissioned this far quite a long time ago, and at this point they're just, putting out what they've already paid for.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. Yeah, and there's a chance that maybe this is actually, broadly popular on the platform. Probably, again, because it's got a famous name associated with it. But yeah, I know, I've enjoyed it so far. We're across its entire run of 5 seasons. Yeah, it's probably not going to break into the top 5 of the year. But I do feel that, it improved from its initial starting position. And it's nice to see that, it wrap up and go out, on a planned ending, unlike a lot of Netflix shows.
Yes, it's true. Just being a Netflix show that actually has an ending is probably impressive enough by itself. I take your point. Okay, and first up today, it's a new film release. It's American Fiction. This is, of course, a film about Monk, or Thelonious Ellison, an African-American writer and professor who is frustrated that his literary novels aren't getting the attention that he feels they deserve. So, in a fit of pique against what he feels are annoying, stereotypical black books about the ghetto, he decides to write one himself in the most knowing, self-aware, intentionally bad way possible, only to become annoyed when his intentionally bad book actually becomes an enormous success, and he himself ends up being called upon to do talk shows and so on in the fake persona of the stereotypical individual he feels would write such a book. And in the background of all this, he also deals with a range of family drama, including his sickly mother and his recently out as gay brother. And yeah, this is a new film, big Oscar contender, starring Jeffrey Wright in the lead role. He in particular has got a lot of acclaim for this. Alistair, what did you think of it?
So we've talked on this podcast before about how hard it is to be both funny and moving. And we do a lot of times say that, it's difficult to do both, and we praise things that do. And I think it's worth restating that it is hard to get both humour and, intense emotion out of the same thing. And I saw a play recently, which I reviewed for Everything Theatre, that managed to not do this and fall in the middle by not being funny enough or dramatic enough. But this film is really good at being both very funny and very moving. I mean, it's kind of sold as a comedy. If you go to the cinema and see the trailer, it's kind of pitched as a comedy, but it really does have a very, emotional side to it. It's got a lot of family drama. It's a very sad film in many ways. It's not sad like Schindler's List sad, but it's kind of a film about depression and the kind of, the sadder things in life, loss, death, and things like that. And it's got a really strong cast of characters. So, I think this film kind of excels in everything it's setting out to do, and is, really packs quite a strong emotional punch, as well as being, quite funny.
I think I also really liked the film. I think, as Alistair says, it is hard to be funny and moving, and this film does achieve it. I think it's interesting that it doesn't really achieve it at the same time for a lot of its runtime. The bits where it's tackling the sort of comedy literary satire part with Jeffrey Wright deliberately writing this terrible book, and all that stuff's hilarious. To be honest, as Alistair says, that is the stuff the film is sort of sold as in trailers and so on. And if I'm being honest, I almost came away wanting a bit more of it, because when it does, the bits that are devoted to that storyline are hilarious. And then siloed off almost in separate scenes of the film is the moving part, which is the sort of slower, more thoughtful character drama about his family. And there's this sort of weird sense that it's almost two stories, or almost two movies even, existing alongside each other, and the Jeffrey Wright who's in the sort of thoughtful, grounded family saga is almost a bit embarrassed about his role in the silly comedy that's taking place elsewhere. It's almost like a secret identity he has, but he feels he should hide from his family because it's just so ridiculous. Yeah, weirdly it kind of works, even though I've probably made it sound like it's quite disjointed. The comedy bits are really funny. I did come into this film almost prepared for something a bit more, I don't know, scathing and sarcastic and devoted to the cause of satire. So in some ways it was quite surprising to find myself watching a film that has these long, quite quiet spells where Jeffrey Wright deals sadly with his mother's Alzheimer's. But yeah, it does all work. It does all actually sit together quite well. As I say, part of me would have liked more of the jokes, but I cannot deny I enjoyed the film.
Yeah, it's got some strong comedy set pieces, as you say. Like, this is a bit of a spoiler, but it's not a huge spoiler. But I do feel I want to talk about, like, there's a hilarious bit when he calls his publisher and asks him to change the title of the book to just fuck. Like, not even fuck with a PH, just fuck. And that is just hilarious. So it's got really strong comic scenes like that. But it's also kind of strange that, like, it's quite a while into the film before he even starts writing the book. And it really takes a long time to build up his character, his family. He's got quite a large family. What I quite liked about this is it felt like he had, like, a real life, in that the main character had two siblings and a complex relationship with each of them, complex relationship with his, both his parents and stuff. He felt like a real person. And also, he's got friends and a wider social circle. And it builds that up quite slowly and at the beginning, and do quite a lot of emotional bits before you really hit the funny bit of him writing this book. I was surprised by how long it took them to actually get to the bit that's in the trailer about what he does.
Yeah, because obviously it would have been quite easy to make a sort of straight comedy about this grumpy professor, which kind of is what they set up in the very first scene, where he's basically yelling at his students and then yelling at his superiors. But then, he then gets sent on forced sabbatical because he keeps yelling at people and goes back to see his family. And at that point, the film takes a bit of a turn into this sort of sadder, different film, almost more, if you want to be cynical, Oscar-baity film about him, reconnecting with his family and realising, how he's changed and what he's lost and what he's maybe been avoiding by staying away from his family for so long. And it really does linger on a lot of that stuff. And yeah, as I say, the comedy bits are incredibly funny when they happen, but it's a bit of a strange transformation. But it does have a great ending. An ending I will not spoil, because I think it would be crap to spoil it. But the more sort of silly comedy meta aspects do become a lot stronger towards the end, and the actual ending they finish on is very good.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I might have liked is a bit more of the kind of meta stuff going on. There's one bit when he's writing the book early on, and you kind of sees the characters acting out the stuff that he's writing. But there's various bits when they turn to him and go what do I say next? And that was quite a funny scene, and quite clever, showing how writers shape characters and stuff. I'd preferred a bit more of that maybe as well, because it's in that bit when he's writing the book, and then as you say, also kind of at the end, which I won't spoil either, because it is worth not knowing the ending. So I preferred a bit more in that. It kind of reminded me in many ways of Adaptation, which came out probably about 20 years ago. That's another film that plays around with literary fiction as a form, in that that's about a screenwriter trying to adapt a book into a film, a book that's really, really hard to adapt into a film, and struggling. But there's this sort of same idea of trying to take these kind of literary concepts and put them into a film, which this does very well. I mean, in this, it's helped by the fact that the main character is a writer writing a literary book, or then kind of, I don't know, parody of commercial fiction. It reminds me of that a lot, because both of them have kind of play around with sort of storytelling conventions and kind of literary forms, which also appeals, I guess, to the writers in the audience, such as us.
Yeah, that stuff's really good. I guess the thing that you can find frustrating when you look back on it is that a lot of that is the stuff that's unique to this film. And a lot of the stuff about a man sadly struggling with his aging family is stuff you've probably seen in quite a lot of other films, even though it is done incredibly well here. And Jeffrey Wright's fantastic in this. The fact that this is kind of a film with these two separate parts, and yet they all work together and it always seems like the same character, despite the fact that it's quite different tones and it could be quite disjointed, is a lot of that is on the back of Jeffrey Wright, who is fantastic throughout at playing this single consistent character going through this ridiculous experience. Yeah, no, he is excellent, and deserves his Oscar nomination and the plaudits that's been put on him as well, and you're right. I mean, the family drama stuff is, it's stuff that you've seen elsewhere. Although I guess one thing that makes it different, or at least to me, maybe I'm not seeing enough films that this kind of family drama thing, I've not seen it through the lens of the Black American experience before. I've seen quite a lot of films about white families, American or British, coming together after tragedy. There's a sort of there's an immediate tragic backstory to the events of the film that kind of sets up the sadness, but I've not seen that done through the lens of the Black experience. And one of the things I thought about the film is that this is a great film about being Black and middle class in America. It's dealing with a lot of issues facing middle class people worldwide who aren't at kind of the sharp end of the poverty stick. They're things like aging parents, especially parents with degenerative mental conditions, what to do about that, having professional career but not being fulfilled in it, the death of close family members, which happens as you go through life. I mean, these are all middle class experiences, but this is what it's like to go through that as someone who's Black. And I guess the film's trying to make a meta point, which is through the culture that's produced, there's so much focus on the poor Black experience, which is obviously that's what he's lampooning in his book. And there's other writers who also, again, middle-class Black writers writing about what it's like to be poor and Black in America. And the film, I think, is trying to make a meta point by saying we're obsessed with, culturally obsessed with the poor Black experience. So I'm putting on screen the middle-class Black experience to kind of show the contrast. And I think there's something, kind of meta going on there, and something that's a bit different to what we've seen before. Yeah, I think that's a fair point, and hearing it explained like that does almost make me reconsider whether I truly do think this film is, air quotes, disjointed. I mean, I too, probably a lot more than you, have not seen enough films to comment on how much the black middle class experience is depicted. I think it's maybe, I don't know, it's notable at least for being a film about that has got, a lot of Oscar level visibility. Again, I don't follow the Oscar nominations as much as you either, but I don't know how often these films get multiple Oscars.
It doesn't happen very much, which is sort of something the film sort of like approaches obliquely. There's the token black film sometimes that gets nominated, but yeah, it's usually something that's focused on either the kind of poor black experience or like the experience of slavery or something like that. And obviously a film like 12 Years a Slave is a great and powerful film. Yeah, there's a bit towards the end of this film which I thought was very funny. I don't think this is a big spoiler, but there's a bit when he's on a movie set and he just sees a black actor on a different film taking a break from his film, and he's dressed as a southern plantation worker, and it's this moment of pointing towards the fact that so much of like Oscar bait films and stuff are about slavery and stuff, and obviously the Oscars are trying to be more inclusive. They're trying to include more films that aren't in the English language, films that reflect different aspects of American experience. I talked before in this podcast about how Past Lives is up for an Oscar this year. That's very much about the Korean American experience and how it's different to the Korean experience. This film is, it's kind of getting away from some of those stereotypes, but I guess the fact that it's basically this year's black film that's nominated for Oscars kind of reinforces in some levels the point it's making.
Yeah. As you say, yes, there is a very good commentary joke about the frequency with which black films are, either ghetto or slave. And this is a good job of a different sort of film, and one that also makes a fun sort of high-level, slightly smug literary commentary on it. And I do enjoy my slightly smug literary commentary.
Yeah, I feel that as the writers, we were laughing very hard at some of the more painful writery moments. So just one bit when he goes like, I just spend whole time having conversations with people in my head, or things like that. Or there's the other thing that it lampoons quite well is how the publishing industry is obsessed with debut authors, and how the struggle it is to be a mid-list author on your 5th or 6th book when the industry is so obsessed with debuts, which is, I guess, the point that only people who are trying to break into writing books will know about.
Well, the way they treat him so differently when he suddenly becomes a debut caricature instead of this like long-running mid-lister. Yeah. Also, the soundtrack's great, really atmospheric. Enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. No, it's really well put together, just on every level. I felt there was something quite realistic about it. In the sense that it doesn't give you kind of a neat wrap-up ending. Again, won't spoil the ending, but it leaves bits hanging like real life. There's a scene towards the end when Monk confronts another black author, which has been brewing for a while, and obviously it doesn't go the way that he wants it to go, and it kind of really realistically captures those times in your head when you're like, man, if I was in the room with this person, I know exactly what I would say to them, but obviously the conversation never goes the way you want it to because reality's not like in your head. And little scenes like that, I really felt it sort of captured what these little moments are like, nice little character studies.
Yeah, there's a nice sort of balance of scenes where, it doesn't go the obvious melodramatic way, or when in slightly more obvious melodramatic things do happen and it turns out to be a commentary. Yeah, it's well done. So I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah, I feel we can recommend it, and maybe it'll be the surprise one that walks away with loads of Oscars this year. Who knows?
As I say, I think, if nothing else, if Jeffrey Wright wins the Oscar for Best Actor, it'll be well deserved. Oh, and Sterling K. Brown's up for Supporting Actor, is he?
Yes, and he's very good in this film, playing the younger brother.
Yeah, he's sort of, as you would expect, I guess, for the supporting actor. He's in maybe a relatively small number of scenes, but he's incredibly funny and incredibly sort of funny, but with this sort of serious core that comes through quite well.
Yeah, I mean, he's not in a huge number of scenes, as you say, but he's clearly quite built up as a character. And he feels like a real person. He's not just sort of a mirror or whatever for the main character to bounce thoughts off, which makes the main character feel like much more real person, that he's surrounded by real people. Again, it's kind of built out this guy's world much more than a lot of films usually do, establishing like wider family and things like that. I believe this film is based on a film about writing a book based on a book, so a lot of the detailed characterization might have come from a book where you have more scope to do this sort of thing, but it's a good adaptation.
Well, I mean, I don't think a lot of the point of, well, at least of the character played by Jeffrey Wright is that he's this quite sort of quiet, taciturn, slightly angry, sad man who's just sort of watching everyone else lead full lives around him.
Yeah. And Jeffrey Wright's great at capturing that, and it kind of brings the sadness into the film, which counterbalances the silliness of some scenes. So it works on every level. I think, definitely go see this if you're on the fence. It's not an Oscar also ran. It's one of the leaders, certainly in terms of quality.
Yeah, agreed. Great film. Okay, and last up today, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. This is, of course, last summer's Ninja Turtles film, reinventing the characters as a group of, well, teenage turtles living in the sewers after their ooze accident, sneaking out at night to run around the city, lark around and fight crime under the nose of their rat mentor Splinter, who would rather they just avoided the humans altogether due to their inherent prejudice against mutants. And inevitably they encounter a group of mutants who have decided to take a more aggressive approach to human prejudice. And so action unfolds. Yep, we have seen this film with its sort of exciting Spider-Verse infused animated style. It came out last summer. It's directed by Jeff Rowe. Seth Rogen also involved on the creative side. Between this and The Boys, he's having a good few years. Alistair, you've also seen this. What did you think of it?
So I've wanted to see this for a while, partly because a film critic I really like called Hannah Strong, who's a good follow on Twitter and a regular contributor to Little White Lies and the Truth in Movies podcast, which is a good podcast, not that I'm recommending other film podcasts. She rated this as one of her best films of 2023. So that's, strong plaudits from an expert. So I was excited to see it, and I can honestly say it lived up to expectations. It's a great film in terms of, it's animation, it's humour. As you mentioned, it's very much in the sort of post Spider-Verse vein of animated filmmaking. But similar to Spider-Verse, what I liked about it is that it's kind of a great film about being young and about being a teenager, not in a way that a film like Stand By Me is explicitly about, youth, but it's got a real youthful energy to it, which is, in the art and the humour. And it's really great to spend time with these like kind of young characters kind of bouncing off each other and having a good time. It's just, good times throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a scholar of the Turtles. I watched the original sort of, I think it's late 80s, early 90s cartoon and maybe a few of the movies that were around when I was a kid. But I haven't, followed what's been done with them. But from what I've been able to glean from the talk around this movie, this is possibly one of the first attempts to really portray them as like teenagers in a sort of youngish way and having this sort of youthful energy and making them a bit hyperactive, constantly chattering, kind of annoying, lots of silly little in-jokes that they just babble at each other, rebelling against their dad figure as sort of lovable and just wanting to be accepted, slowly discovering girls and the wider world. And it's a lot of fun. It gives it a very different energy and makes it feel tangibly different from other things. As you say, the animation is lovely. It's got this sort of scribbly neon vibe going on, which really works with the sort of mutant monster aesthetic when they turn up. And it's a laugh. It's aiming at this sort of wacky, hyperactive kids' adventure, possibly slightly lower age rating than things like Spider-Verse and most superhero films. Maybe more of an actual PG film rather than the old 12A fun for the family. But it aims for that and it does it. It's incredibly fun.
The art is great for portraying the mutants, as you say, but I kind of liked how it's got this sort of graffiti-esque kind of style. I mean, it's quite impressionistic in the sense that sometimes it looks like you can see like brushstrokes on the screen as if it's been painted, and which makes it feel like impressionistic style, in that it's not trying to depict photorealism, it's trying to depict like an emotional scene, but also it's kind of got this like graffiti style which really suits the New York kind of urban setting as well. I mean, Spider-Verse did that as well. That's one of the things I feel that's like directly picked up from Spider-Verse, but it is beautiful to look at. And I'm liking the fact we're going through an age of animated films that feel they can lean into art and animation and not necessarily go for like 3D realism, have a bit of like creative flair, which is actually nice and sometimes a lot less uncanny than things that look real but just aren't quite.
Yeah, I think there was a long period where the pinnacle of animation, even in kids' films, was this sort of slightly plasticky, semi-real thing, which I guess peaked somewhere around Frozen, maybe. And then no one seemed to know quite where to go next until eventually we had Spider-Verse, and I think between this and like Arcane, the post-Spider-Verse animations are starting to arrive, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, when a sort of dominant form's established, and as you say, with the rise of CGI, there was just this movement towards greater and greater fidelity, which was achieved as computers got more powerful and animation techniques got better. There's lots of Disney, Pixar films, that really stride for like, realism, even though they are a little bit cartoonish, Ratatouille, The Incredibles, things like that. And then, sort of dominant form is established of, let's try and be as realistic as possible. And then everything starts to look the same. And then something comes along and shatters that staid dominant form by being different and original and standing out from the pack and getting lots of attention that way. We carry on in this direction. But it's just beautiful to look at. And it's a great film about friendship. I feel there's like, we really get a sense of these four characters, especially as a group of sort of friends, bros, brothers, in the, in the biological sense, a family. It's a really sweet, kind of nice depiction of kind of male teenage friendship. Yeah, there's a bit of like jiping and, them making jokes at each other's expense, but they are very supportive of each other, and it's very, very wholesome in that way.
And I think it's nice that, the original Teenage Mutant Turtle designs in the old cartoon were a bit sort of, they look exactly the same, except they wear different colour masks. So I think it's quite fun that they, changed the character models a little bit. So you've got the sort of the skinny nerd Donatello and Raphael being a bit more of a like big broad tank man. Yeah, they've made some fun tweaks to it here. I've no idea how this has gone down with the hardcore Turtles faithful, but it's very enjoyable to me.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I thought that was good that they've kind of gone for some kind of easy differentiation between the characters, as well as the coloured like bandanas they wear, and also the fact they have quite different personalities, which comes across well, in this as well, which makes them feel like real people. I like the fact that also they seem to have cast actual teenagers to play them. It's sort of relatively unknown cast. I mean, there's a lot of celebrities in this film doing cameos or background things. I mean, Seth Rogen's in it himself as Bebop. Jackie Chan is Splinter, their mentor. Ice Cube plays the villain.
Yeah, a lot of famous people playing monsters who communicate mostly through noises.
Yeah, I guess it's having fun making silly noises in the studio. The sort of thing Seth Rogen's actually really good at. But yeah, with the young people, they actually have a young cast of teenagers playing the teenagers, which also makes it feel more realistic and believable. Yeah,
they've also brought in a few sort of X-Men-y themes. Like, the title is Mutant Mayhem, and it is leaning slightly more on the idea of mutants and prejudice towards mutants. And you have, the mutants who just want to sort of stay out of the way and get on with their lives, versus the Magneto figure of Superfly, who's like, nah, fuck these humans.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a very similar plot to the original Hugh Jackman X-Men film. I hope this isn't a big spoiler for this film, but yeah, like, the villain is building a big machine to kill all the normies. To be fair, I think that might be the plot of both X-Men 1 and X-Men 2. But it does create a real sense of peril, I felt. And there is a big epic action scene at the end, which is, pretty, spectacular and looks great in the animation style. So, they successfully brought the epic to, I guess what is like a summer blockbuster.
I think it leans well into the animation style as well, like you say, because it does a lot more interesting stuff with, like, the monsters than perhaps it would have done if they're fighting Shredder and a gang of ninjas. Or, I'm sure if and when this gets a sequel, Shredder is inevitable. But I think having fun with the big monsters in this was a good call.
Well, there's a MCU post-credit sequence, isn't there? Obviously, directly setting up the next one, which obviously everything has now. But yeah, I did like the fact they didn't just like wheel out Shredder at the first possible opportunity. They kind of built up these characters, introduced the wider world and things like that, and kind of focused on the Turtles for this one, which is all good stuff. Yeah,
a lot of fun. Plus, actually funny. A lot of very good jokes.
Yeah, consistently funny. It's like, I mean, I feel that's like Seth Rogen's, again, because he's like writing, or co-writer, co-producer, I think got several other credits. He's kind of got his stamp all over this. But he's very good at comedic set pieces, silliness. That's kind of his sense of humour coming through, which works really well. I mean, there's one, it's not much of a spoiler, but the character of April, obviously, a sort of key Turtles character is introduced. And there's one bit when there's like an sort of extended puke scene, which is just quite gross and quite funny and goes on for quite a long time. And I feel that's like a pure like Seth Rogen joke, but it is good.
Yeah, no, it's especially in this animation style, the willingness to just go all in on this like neon green horrible looking puke is really But they commit and they get it. And there's a good ongoing joke about how Master Splinter thinks they're inevitably going to be captured and milked by the humans, which
yeah.
Ludicrous, but very funny.
Several times it says they don't even have nipples. It's just a good. I mean, again, it strikes me as like that's a Seth Rogen joke. I feel that like his style works for this. I mean, he's done a lot of like buddy comedies in the past, and like this has a real feel of like a sort of buddy comedy, like mismatched characters together, but there's like a real solid foundation of friendship. I mean, I think that's what Hannah Strong really liked, and she said in her wrap-up of Film of 2023 that it's a real positive film about male friendship and just sort of male characters being together, supporting each other. The positive side of masculinity coming through, which is, it's great to see on film, but especially a film obviously aimed at young people trying to find their way in the world in the age of kind of Andrew Tate and things like that. To have this out there as a real like positive, inclusive vision of kind of teenage masculinity is, it's almost something a bit radical about that, which is, what I like about, a film that is obviously about, mutant turtles at the end of the day.
yeah, there's a big dancing gleefully around spoilers to the extent that it matters that I spoiled the Turtles movie that's 9 months old. But yeah, there's a beat towards the end of this film where one of the major plot things hinges on the fact that the Turtles are just a good hang and that they have good vibes. Yeah, it's both funny and kind of sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, which is what you want as well. Yeah, I felt that's what ran through the kind of the appeal of the Turtles, even going back to, say, those 90s cartoons that you mentioned at the beginning, which I also, watched as a kid. That's my introduction to the world of the Turtles. Yeah, and I know there's been several times to restart them as a film franchise over the last 15, 20 years. Several attempts, most of them quite bad, but it looks like they finally found a groove with this one. So when the inevitable sequel comes along, I think, definitely want to see that.
Yeah, no, this is really good, and I am up for more. I'm not planning on becoming a huge, massive Turtles fanboy and going on Paramount Plus and binging the 80s cartoon or anything, but I will definitely be back for a direct sequel to this. I think they're doing a TV show sequel or something as well. Who knows if they'll now ruin this by milking it to death, ironically. But
yeah.
Teenage Milked Ninja Turtles or something, I don't know. But yeah, for now, I'm definitely here for this vision of the Teenage Mutant Turtles. It's a good time.
Yeah, if they do more of it, that would be good. Again, don't ruin it by doing too much, but another film certainly in this vein would be good. Thanks for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode of Moderate Fantasy Violence, then please leave us a review in your podcatcher of choice so that others can find out about the show. You can also visit our website, moderatefantasyviolence.com, for more episodes of the show, bonus audio clips, and short written pieces by Nick and myself.
And if you particularly enjoyed that, you could also follow us on social media, where we are MFV Podcast on Twitter and Moderate Fantasy Violence on Facebook. Maybe one day other things. And you can follow me at nickbryan.com on the wider internet, or I'm also available as, Nick Bryan on various social media, NickMB on Twitter/X, all sorts of places. You'll work it out. Bryan with a Y.
You can get more from me on Blue Sky Threads, Instagram and Twitter, where I'm Alistair Ball. You can also find more of my writing at redtrainblog.com, or you can read my theatre reviews at everythingtheatre.com. Or you can join us next time on this podcast, when we will be teaming up with our siblings in a wrestling showdown for the Iron Claw, and then living a secret life as an assassin and a married couple in Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon Prime. Join us in 2 weeks' time for that. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.